think, initially I didn't want to believe any of this could be true, what's being told of, what can happen on the planet. And I'm sure I was in a state of that cognitive dissonance, denial. And
Which
more recently,
most of
yeah,
us have been or are or have been a
yeah,
part of it.
at certain states, exactly. And then more recently, it was like, okay, the things they've been talking about, like it's on mainstream media, news, all this stuff, like it's happening. And
Hmm.
okay, I need to take this seriously and I need to get myself, my family ready. So maybe I just did a video talking like just very briefly, very generally about the concept of prepping, how I do feel that the more awakened ones, the ones that didn't take the jab, things like that, it's like we are really being guided towards prepping and to take it seriously. And I know there's a reason. What do you feel towards the reasons of that are?
I mean, again, that's kind of like preparing for things. Like, I don't feel like when people say prepping, you're like, oh, the end of the world's happening right now. That's not the way it quite works. It's okay. It's more in reference to preparing for things that will gradually get worse over time.
Mm-hmm.
So that is prepping is quote unquote preparing. That's what they should call it rather than prepping is preparing
Mm-hmm.
because you're preparing for things just in case they might happen. Which again, if we reflect on current situations, some things are manufactured and some things aren't. I believe that 70% is basically truth and 30% is false.
Okay, yeah.
So that's how I base it. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter who's saying what. 70% of what's coming out of your mouth is true, and 30% is a lie.
Yeah.
When it pertains to the government and governments now that we've seen, so and things that are happening in current events and things like that we've seen, everything gets. My rule of thumb is give it 72 hours, and it'll either be debunked or somebody will come out with something referencing something different.
Okay.
So when we're going into situations that we're preparing for. I mean, how do you actually prepare for anything really? You know what I mean? It's like having a
Yeah.
child. You're not ever ready to have a
Fully
child.
prepared. Yeah.
You just kind of have one and then you get ready. so
Yeah.
so
What?
basically we're in this getting ready stage in my opinion,
Yeah.
and we need to prepare ourselves for things. So I started prepping elements, preparing stuff about a couple, 2 years ago.
Yeah. I was just gonna ask you
With
that. Like,
with
which ways
COVID.
did you start? Yeah.
So and with that I was United States, no toilet paper.
Same in
Out of
Canada.
all things, that just kind of smack you in the face going, okay, the little things are what you need to actually think about.
I got a bidet in case that happens again.
See what I mean? But that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like, to the point of like, the littlest things in preparing are the biggest problems when you don't have them.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and I mean,
Who'd have
like,
thought toilet paper would be this big, huge deal, right?
correct. Now, think about that in verses of medicine, Tylenol,
Mm. Yeah.
aspirin, like little things. Something that would be a grave impact if you really needed it, but you won't have it is rubbing alcohol.
Yes.
But then
Yeah.
what can you do with rubbing alcohol? I can do everything. I can light fires with it. I can clean paint off, strip paint. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to
Clean
do.
wounds. Yeah.
But if you don't have it, you can't utilize it.
Exactly.
And those are the things that we tend to miss out on the most because most people think of prepping as food and I need to get food and prepare for food. That's not always
Yeah.
the case.
Yeah.
It's
It's only one
everything.
aspect.
Right. It's a generalized element of why not every time you go to the store, why don't you get 2 cans instead of one?
Yeah.
That's
You
an
told
easy
me
way
that,
to,
and I started
yeah,
doing that.
just an easy way to start. And then the new ones you put in the back and the back ones you pull forward. It's kind of simple.
Yeah, I've seen online, as far as the food part, I've seen that some people sort of keep their pantry really stocked up, like just in their kitchen, and exactly what you're saying, just revolve it and have like kind of like your own little grocery store and just get yourself ahead of the game. That's step one. And then it's like to do a long-term storage, which is like keeping non-perishables. You know, you
Correct.
can
You can
get the
start
food
to,
saver bags and get some oxygen absorbers and vacuum pack stuff. I started with that.
yeah,
Now you know that we've taken it to the next degree now, and we just got a freeze
freeze dry.
drying machine. And it's an
Yeah.
expensive investment, but I'm not joking you. The stuff is getting so real. Places that were selling freeze dried food, it's like stopping. The biggest, Mountain House put out letters to their suppliers. I saw online that they're ceasing operations for a while. Like they might not be able to get the food to do what they're doing, or you know what I mean?
Oh, that's when you start to see bare shelves, okay? And
Yes.
in the States where I'm at, I'm on the East Coast, so I can still walk into a grocery store. I went this morning and get whatever I want, bar certain items,
Yeah.
and there's the start. So
Yeah. We
what
started
happens
noticing
is
certain things were running out, and then we would see stuff online about why they're running out. Like, oh, well, this comes
correct,
from this country, and they're not exporting this and this right now, or
correct, and what's being made out of country, what's being processed in country,
Yeah.
who's processing what and when and how, and to what degree, even down to, again, I'm not going to delve into conspiracy elements of things, but I'm more of a factual person.
Hmm.
So when you talk about shortages of food supplies, let's reflect on COVID and shipping element. So
Yeah.
shipping
Supply
elements,
chain
right? Supply
issues.
chain elements that have been going on. Here's the thing: last year's supply issues will affect us this year,
It's already
and
behind.
this is what people, how easily people forget things. Okay,
Yeah.
and in reflection of that, right now you can go online and check out shipping lanes, and ships have GPSs on the boats. Okay, so you can actually look up where all the ships are in the world if you want to.
Oh, I've
On
heard they're all just waiting.
Correct. So on every coast of every port, there's thousands of ships waiting. Now, to me, I've even ordered things for businesses and stuff like that direct from China, and had to cancel them because they're sitting on a boat somewhere and they won't be here for another 6 months.
Wow.
And I need those parts. Do you see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's not happening. So
Yeah. Certain
in
supplies
reflection,
are really being held back.
but in reflection to food, that's something that people don't quite understand, because they also think meat and stuff comes from the grocery store, that it doesn't get made or farmed or something like that. So it's a process, So
Yeah.
this process of growing it and getting it stable and bringing it to market is a long process.
Yeah.
That's why we have growing seasons. Do you see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So this growing season is going to be almost null and void because of the issues that are happening currently with war, fertilizer, cost of fuel to produce those type of grains and those products.
Yeah. That's
That's
exactly what
going
I'm
to
seeing.
seriously reflect in 2023, not tomorrow.
Yeah. This is going
This
to happen quick.
and
And
this
I've
is
heard it
why you
already is
prepare.
happening in certain countries. They're not able to
Correct.
get wheat and things like that. Like
Correct.
Egypt is apparently really suffering. And
Well, it's
what
going
I
to
think
start to
Germany had
affect,
started rationing food, certain
yes,
foods.
in the lower, or I guess poor nations. That's going to
Hmm.
reflect first and
That's
foremost, and that's how it usually works. The poor usually get affected first.
so
So
sad.
it is. It's absolutely ridiculous when we have more than enough food to feed everybody on the planet.
Yeah,
But and that's another conversation again.
totally. And then
But
now they've brought in, there's these, I guess, avian flus, and apparently they're killing off all the poultry and
yeah, I've looked
animals
into
are getting
that.
killed off.
Because I'm on the East Coast, we are like the chicken capital, basically.
Oh, okay.
Produces for poultry and chickens everywhere. And what's kind of crazy is, okay, so over the last 2 months, there's been 25, 26 food processing plants burnt down.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of
So
people. posting that this is intentional, which
my
does
thing is
seem
with
pretty
this,
crazy.
it's funny because I looked into that even more and reflected on some things in relevance too, which is, I'm just going to give you an example of this. Again, you might say it's conspiracy minded, but the point is there's 50 Purdue plants on the East Coast of the United States, in Maryland. There's one privatized farmer that holds, I don't know, a couple million chickens. And the Purdue's farms are all around this one person's private farm. And what I mean about the private farm is the one person who probably isn't Purdue and isn't up the government's ass, right?
Mm-hmm.
With basically volume and money and subsidies and this and everything else. And guess whose farm burnt down? It wasn't Purdue's factory.
His competitor.
It was the private entity that pretty much probably said, F you to the government. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Wow.
So in reflection to that, there's different elements that you could think of with that. I don't know.
Yeah, people can say conspiracy theories, but I've come to believe it's like, it's just foretelling. It's a lot of it is truth, and that's what I have found. Is at first you look at all these things like, oh, it's just conspiracy theory, but no, I've been into quote conspiracy theories enough to now have seen so many actually come true that I thought were so unbelievable before,
Oh yes, there's a reflection
Doctors being
on a
killed
bunch.
off, like so many things. I could go on and on and on about that for a long time.
Exactly.
And that was
That's
another
another
part of the
conversation.
awakening. Yeah, that was another whole part of the awakening process, because you have to know what is going on the planet. And that's where I'm at right now, is delving into that on deeper and deeper levels, because
Well,
I
again,
think, yeah, we have to understand what's at play in order to know what we're working with here.
exactly. Like you have to. This is why I delve into things very deeply when it like the chicken poultry element. Okay, so that to me, I'm just going, okay, well, wait a minute. Like, are they just burning down? I mean, let me put it this way: two of those factories were hit with white Cessna planes. Okay, so who in the hell? I mean, okay, one factory burnt down from an accident. Okay, no problem. Two, yeah, no problem. That's believable.
Even
Three,
that, I'm like,
that's no
I don't know
problem.
about that.
One hit by a plane, maybe. Okay, another
Yeah.
13 burned down. Something's wrong, and then another one gets hit by another white plane. I mean, that's just kind of absolutely absurd to me.
Yeah.
And that's not conspiracy. That's just a fact. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes no sense to me. So, in what I have to question that.
100%. You'd
And
be crazy not to.
Right, by questioning that makes me want to prep even more. So,
Yes.
in other words, okay, so if they're saying that all the poultry has bird flu and they're culling these animals, what else are they going to do?
Mm-hmm.
So it's, to me, again, what's happening now will reflect next year. So you can't prepare in 2023 for them killing 40 million chickens this month. You understand what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Yeah.
So you'll still see chicken and stuff that they produce and stuff that they have in warehouses and freezers for the next year. And it'll get slower and slower and slower and slower until they go, well, shit, you remember last year when we had to kill 50 million chickens? Well, we don't really have any more chickens anymore.
Exactly. And this is for
So,
so many things from what I've seen, like grain stocks and
well, yeah, I mean,
all
just
sorts of things that we humans live off of. Grain is huge, and grain also feeds the
exactly
animals that people consume.
correct. So the thing with that is, what is made out of grains? Everything. What's made out of
Everything.
soybean? What's made out of oils? What's made out of those three
Mm-hmm.
particular items that if they were to be gone, or if 30% is not produced, like in the Ukraine, they're not planting shit. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I've been stocking up on sunflower oil because they said that's going to be gone, because that
Right.
comes out of the Ukraine, and obviously everything's on hold right for, there.
Well, it's back to the prepping element. The things that you would least think that you would need or want is what you want the most when you don't have it.
Yes.
So those are the things that I like to prep first, bar like just perishables like canned foods and things of that nature, because that's easy. You can always grab an extra couple of those when you go out. But
Yeah.
to start to make a
And
list
you
of
said,
things that you can get that you wouldn't normally think of, like Tylenol, like rubbing
yes.
alcohol, like, I don't know, Band-Aids. I don't, whatever
Yeah.
it is that you think that,
Bandages,
I mean, you only take a
certain
Band-Aid out of
medicines.
a box maybe once every 2 months. You see what I mean? So,
Exactly. If you have
but
certain illnesses, like, for example, myself, my whole life, I was prone to getting bladder infections my whole life. So I've kind of gotten some extra prescriptions of my bladder infection antibiotics because
yes.
that could be hard to get, things like that. And then also for me, I got books, and I have heard it's pretty important to not rely on the internet because we don't know what could happen. So to have some physical books and things like that. So I bought books of like herbal remedies, herbal antibiotics, things like that that you can. And I bought some of those, tinctures and powders and things like that in a raw form
Oh
in
yes.
order to make these herbal remedies. And then I also bought books on identifying plants and edible plants, different species for my area where I live. So I heard that that could be really important.
Well, yeah, that those are the things that you don't think about, and the things that,
Yeah,
like, most people wouldn't even think about would be seeds. So, like, I've got non-GMO seeds, and I've got hundreds of thousands of them. Like, you
same.
you can
I
you
bought
can
a
buy
whole
five hundred
bunch.
thousand off of Amazon for, I don't know, 30-40 bucks. Do you see what I mean? But
Yeah,
and they're already ready to go, labeled. You have a whole list of everything that it is that you have that you might want to eat as far as vegetable wise. Now, not saying that you're a green thumb, but my point is that if you have those, you can still utilize them. Again, if you don't have them, you can't. So
exactly.
so it's not a matter of wanting stuff. It's a matter of what is it that I can and can't have and that I can keep the longest. And
Exactly.
what
I
will
did
help
also
me.
hear that matches, like the actual kind you flick, obviously, we can't count on, you
Oh yeah,
can't
I've been.
count on lighters, you can't count on your gas being turned on, you can't count on electricity. So you got to imagine the worst case scenario in a way. And I do always try to remind myself of this. It's like, try not to go into a fear-based mentality when you're prepping, but try to go into I'd say an empowered, a sovereign sort of energetic where it's like, no, I've got this under control. I feel safe. I don't need to feel stressed or fearful because I know I'm one step ahead. And I feel like
Right.
that
It,
is a
it's
big part of it.
it is it you for me. I feel like at any point I can stop going to the grocery store, and I do not have to go there or step foot in there for 6-7 months.
Exactly.
I,
And
I
that's
just don't have
important.
to, and that to me is okay. Well, do I walk down in the basement or do I go to the grocery store? Do you
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
and that's not like me being, oh my god, the world's going to end, we're not going to have
Yeah.
electricity and no food and people are going to freak out. That's not what I'm saying. But I would rather feel better about having things, just like saving money.
Yeah.
You put money in the bank, you have money, you don't worry about money. Then that energetics is, I'm not worried about money, so money comes to me easily and frequently.
Oh my goodness, that
Same
energetic
thing,
changed my
food.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like, okay, I know for a fact that tomorrow I can walk downstairs and get something to eat. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Or for me personally, I can walk outside of my house and go get it if I want it.
I was just gonna
So,
say that, like, you're a hunter, and my partner, well, as you know, he obtained his gun license, which took a year in Canada. It wasn't easy. They're very behind, and our current government is, really trying to ban all the guns, all the
of,
firearms, everything
of,
like
of
that, as
course
you
they
know,
are.
as you know. And I was interested to hear. It's so funny. I used to be so liberal, and I was like all for gun control and all this and that, but I didn't realize like there's statistics. There's like no murders with like registered guns from what I heard.
I mean,
There's no shootings and
there
killings.
there are domestically, and that will always happen. Dude,
I heard it's
mostly
very rare.
probably because of drugs and alcohol to some degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Most registered guns are kept very safely from what I've heard,
right.
and
It's
I
not,
didn't
and
know that.
I have weapons everywhere. So,
Yeah, it's a lot more
but I
normal
also
in
have
the
a
States.
7-year-old, so I'm not stupid. You see what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying? And you know, I also carry one every day, but that's because of the business that I'm in as well.
yeah.
But that to understand that it's just another tool. Like I've always said, people need to understand what is the purpose of them. There's one purpose for them and one purpose only. All right. And that is to
Mhm.
kill. Okay.
Mhm.
Once you understand that, then you can understand a knife can also kill you. A car can also kill you. It's how you utilize that tool.
Yes. Like
Okay.
we have a cabin off grid, in the middle of nowhere. It's like my boyfriend wants to carry one around just for our own safety in case something happened. I also want bear spray because that'd be my first plan of attack or, defense, I would say. But to have that, and then now on this element of prepping, my partner, he's going to take a hunting course this coming weekend. And again, he's like, I don't even really know if I want to like shoot an animal or he's
I've
like, I
often
know
told
it's
you
like,
my pretense with that.
yeah, like
I
he's,
battle that all the time. In other words,
yes,
and that's my spiritual element, battling taking another life. You know what I'm saying? So to sustain a life, which
yeah,
it's not 100% necessary, but I would only do that in order to sustain a life at this point.
that's
I
exactly
don't
it.
do it for sport. I don't do it for to
Yeah,
go
trophy hunting,
get.
all that is bullshit.
I mean, I
Exactly.
used to, and I have I've done that before, but like now I would only do it if necessary for me to sustain life for basically my children and myself.
So that's where we're at as well. And he even says, like, I know I'm a hypocrite because I'm eating meat from the store or whatever. I don't eat meat myself. I'm a pescatarian, and it was like I've been vegan, I've been all
Mm-hmm.
different things, but it was just an energetic thing that I was drawn to, I think. Um, but I'm totally open, like to each their own. And I'm reading a book right now, and I always go on about this book, and I've told you about Barbara Marciniak's, her Pleiadian channeling. So I'm reading Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and I've read her other one. And she said a really good thing about animals, which was to say that animals aren't clinging to life the way humans are. They just know that they are an energy and they're here and their energy will go on and they're not afraid of death and they're okay with dying and they're totally okay with giving their life for humans to live. But what it's talking about in there is the way the animals are being treated. Are we giving them respect and how that's reflecting back upon us? And I do
See,
feel,
that goes into. I mean, you probably feel those energetics through your native element as
I
well.
was
Like
just going to say that.
I always say.
There we go. We're back. I got a
All
doorbell
right.
ring, so got interrupted. I
So
think,
basically, what I was saying is it's very important to understand like the Native American element with the energetics when doing that type of hunting and stuff.
yes. And it
Because
was
if
of such gratitude. It was giving thanks to whatever source, God,
right,
creator, the universe.
all the above to say thank you for what it is that and also at the same time, most people don't understand that same element is of forgiveness for doing what it is you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
it's not just a gratitude element. It's a lot of different things combined in together.
it really is. And that's
So
the thing is, I do believe there's a circle of life and that's okay. We're a part of that. But I do feel like I was just watching that Alone show. I love that show. And with what we're talking about prepping, I find it to be like educational to learn. But there was a guy on this one series of Alone, where they're put out in the wilderness. It's sort of like a reality show. I'm not sure if people have seen it, but it's so great. And this guy was like, I was about to say he was killing it, but he literally was, because he was doing so well with the hunting and gathering food, and that's why most people have to leave that show, and it's whoever can last the longest. And at a certain point, he just kept crying. Like he's like, I'm a hunter. He's like, but I've killed so many lives. And he was really upset because he wanted to just, kill a deer or something to have like a lot of meat, but he kept killing like many small animals. And he's like, it's like he was feeling bad that he'd killed so many different lives, I guess you could say. But he was so full of gratitude too. He's like, he would get something. He's like, thank you so much. And, I just feel it's like you're saying, people think meat just comes from the grocery store. And I think that's what made me stop eating meat. Was I always just saw it as, I was like a boneless, skinless chicken breast kind of gal, because it was like so far removed. And I don't want to see the elements of the animal, And then when I got older, it was when I was 13 years old, I realized what it was, and I couldn't eat it anymore.
That's also the reflection too. I mean, think about that. Like, knowing where the food comes from and doing it in a humane element, as best you can. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
To where there's an understanding that that's an energetic life form. All right? Like,
yes.
The 20 million chickens in one pen that are kept inside and they're all deformed and all this other.
I saw about that.
That's just a no from me. Like,
me
I don't
too.
like large scale slaughterhouses. I don't like any of that stuff. That's why I choose to hunt and provide.
That's what I'm telling my partner. It's like, exactly. Like, I would much rather he ate less meat, but maybe got the meat from, a local farm, buy whatever, a half a cow or whatever, but it was a grass-fed cow that lived a good life and wasn't living in fear. Like, I'm like, that animal is giving off that energy, and when it's killed, I feel like you consume that energy. I'm sorry, like, I'm not trying to judge anybody. Everyone can do what they want. But I have told my partner, I'm like, if we went into a survival mode, if you did hunt, maybe I would eat that meat, because I would know, like, that animal was free. It was in the forest. It was consuming like natural plants and things, not this like shitty GMO grain. I heard they feed cattle like reject candy and crap like that. Like, ew. It's just the whole energetics of it is the problem. And that's what my book is saying. It's like, until on Earth you treat all sentient beings with love and respect, that is going to reflect back on you guys as humans.
Now people understand the Buddhist mentality.
That's exactly it.
So
I'm not a religious person, but I've always said, out of all of them, Buddhism represents the most of what I feel is
I mean, I'm probably everything,
There's elements of everything for sure.
And reflection on, everything, but like the energetic stuff and the twin flame stuff, and that'll change you,
Oh, it really will.
It'll
really, really will.
I mean, I'm the Harley tattooed biker guy, talking about energetics. So it's like, trust me, I reflect on that all the time and go, what the hell?
I know. It's funny because to see you, exactly, it's like you don't look like this major spiritual type, or I don't know what you want to call it, but exactly, you look like this tough guy, tattoo artist, But that's another thing. It just shows you can't judge a book by its cover at all.
Exactly.
Everyone's on their own journey, and we all have like so much to learn.
Well, that's the thing. Like, through the whole process, even through preparing for stuff, and it's all a process. So it doesn't happen overnight,
No.
And you can't expect to, like, oh, I'm gonna go be a prepper and go to Costco and buy $500 worth of food and think that you're prepped already. And that's not really the way it works. It's better to do things. Let me put it this way. They have lied to us since the beginning, and they've done it over the course of 100 years. That's
Yeah.
how you need to prep. Little bit of lies, little bit of prepping, little bit of stuff over a long ass period of time. And then the next thing you know, you walk downstairs or into your pantry and you go, damn, I got a lot of shit in here. Yep. You sure do. You see what I mean?
Yes.
That's an easier way to deal with it energetically also. And
Yeah, one step at a
people
time.
people got to understand, like, take that first step. That's all it is.
Exactly.
Buy that extra can. That's it.